Yo, what's up, guys? Jay, what's up, buddy? Who else is here? Ryan, what up? What up? These webinars are always funny because I'm just talking to myself and I can't see any of you guys. So it's a little bit awkward, but whatever. Hook, what's up, man? We're gonna wait, I don't know, a couple minutes to try to get everyone here on time, or try to wait for all those people who are a little bit late. Who else is here? I see at least 6. I'm in Moscow right now. It's a pretty sweet view. Airbnb I have. There's downtown, way back there. And the Kremlin is behind me. Cool city, but I like Kiev better. Yo, Jason. What's up? Cyril, what's up, man? All right. Yeah, it's a pretty nice Airbnb, huh? It's got 2 rooms. It's kind of funny what they did with this place is there's a stairway that goes up and there's another unit upstairs, but they actually separate them by like a bookcase, and they can rent out one at a time, or they could rent out as one big unit. And I'm going to get into some of the hacks like that later on in the course. So let's see. Sarah, you just left Moscow a week ago. Cool. Well, you should have hit me up. I was here a week ago. Should have said something in the group. It's my bad. How would you have known? All right, so I think we should probably dive in just for time's sake. So I'm going to turn off my face and turn on the. Everyone can hear me, right? Yeah, obviously, if you heard that I'm in Moscow. All right, so I'm going to turn on my presentation. Okay. So, welcome to Module 1 of the Passive Income Profit System. And I want to welcome you guys to the course and congratulate you on investing in yourself through this program to learn the tools to build the passive income through short-term vacation rental real estate investing. That's a mouthful. Included in this course are 6 weekly webinars. We're going to go through all 6 modules that way. Also included is the Facebook group where all the interaction takes place, and also some other stuff in between the calls. So make sure you're in there. It's a great place to network, get all your questions answered. If you haven't joined yet, please make sure that's the first thing you do after this webinar. Also, along with this course, you guys get a free bonus of the Leverage program. And that starts, your free bonus will start tomorrow. So I'm going to be adding you guys to that group as well. And if you just check your email for instructions, we'll go through that. So first things first, let's talk about money. How much income or passive income do you really need to fuel your ideal lifestyle? And I'm not talking about retiring on a yacht 6 weeks from now. I'm talking about shit that's manageable and doable. For example, I can comfortably live on $10,000 a month, passive income or active income, really doesn't matter. I can live on $10K a month in almost any city in the world. The only cities where that could be a problem are like London and New York, and you have to be, I don't know, spending a lot of money, eating out constantly, balling a little bit hard to not be able to survive on $10K a month. But take a city in Eastern Europe, like Belgrade or Budapest, you can live like a king on like $3K. You can live like the fucking mayor of the city for $5K per month. And I prefer Eastern European women and Latina women. So luckily those countries, in Eastern Europe and South America happen to be some of the cheapest. So that's even better for me. So think about it, and think about it right now, because I'm about to ask you guys, how much income does your dream lifestyle require? And why do you really want to do this? Why are you in this course? Your why is very important because that will dictate the rest of your actions in this course. My why is because I love adventure and I really value my freedom. I want to be able to work from wherever I want, and I want to be able to do whatever I want. And I love to travel and learn about new cultures, experience the people, especially the women. I love meeting beautiful women, and I love that I can work from anywhere. So let me ask a few of you guys, why do you really want to do this? Hopefully everyone responds. Just put it in the chat. Why do you really want to do this? Why are you here? Well, Hook, I see you got some kids in college, so yeah, it's a little bit more expensive. I get that. And hi to some of the new guys joining, Raphael. Shakar, I just want to travel and own my 24 hours. Okay. Good reason. Jay says, dream lifestyle requires 4 to 5K a month, but more doing this because I love real estate and the whole idea of renting. Totally. What else? Shakar says 3 to 4K. I'll wait for a couple more of you guys to respond. Move away from the corporate world and live doing what I'm passionate about. Raphael says freedom. Ryan, I'm in London. I need 50K a month. Well, fuck Ryan with your lifestyle. Doesn't surprise me all that much. Zero says have the freedom to do the projects that I really want. Go on full-time travel. Also an architect. I'm passionate about cool spaces. About 5,000 to 8,000. Jason says he's got some debt. Okay. Jay says, Ryan, sky's the limit. All right, cool. So, seems like most of the people, besides besides Ryan, can do okay with 10K passive income per month. I know Zara Hook, you got some kids in college, so that's always a drain. But let's just talk about that real quick, and let's talk about that money. So, slide, yeah. What I'd love for every single one of you guys is to be making 10K a month in passive income by the end of your first year. That's kind of where I was, give or take. Actually, I think I did a little bit better than that by the end of my first year. It wasn't all passive because I didn't have the steps in place to systematize and automate yet that I'm going to teach you guys. But to break that down in the dummy math, that means if you're doing 10K a month 1 year from now, that means 6 months from now, you're making 5K a month. And to break it down even more, that means 3 months now, you're making 2.5K per month, which means at the end of this course, 6 weeks from now, you're making $1,250. And if you're making $1,250 in 6 weeks from now, I think you've done an excellent job. And I'd be very proud of myself that you're doing that. And to make that, you're going to have your first listing up, and you're going to have some money coming in 6 weeks from now. So I think it's totally doable. And then you can just rinse and repeat that process and have 3 listings up shortly after that. So those are the 3 listings. So first, to get there, all right, to get to that goal, let's talk about mindsets. Follow the rules or follow the fools, Tupac. So the first mindset that people tend to have is thinking that things are just the way that they are. This is just the way that it is, and there's a system, and I got to live by the system, and this costs that, and that costs Y. So you grow up in this world where everything seems to be standardized. A loaf of bread costs $1.50, and that's what you pay. A shirt from Nordstrom's costs $45, and that's what you pay. But who says? Have you ever tried to even think to ask for a discount? And guess what? Like 50% of the time, you ask for a discount at a place you should never ask for a discount for, like maybe at Nordstrom's or at the Starbucks or at these random places where everything has a price. A lot of the time you'll get it. You might have to be a little bit creative and say something like, "Hey, do you know it's a National Jewish Discount Day? And guess what? I'm Jewish. Look at the nose. So what do you got for me? I'm sure you got some employee discounts or some stuff up your sleeve." And they'll, you make them laugh. You just by asking for a discount, you'll be shocked. You'll get it like 50% of the time. So it's crazy. So we got to get out of this thinking that this is just the way things are, because that is a surefire way to not make money and to just be stuck doing what everyone else is doing, like applying for jobs and pushing your resume out there instead of going out and creating money on your own. So that's one fucked up mindset. And it's this whole rat race mentality. You go to school. This is more of the standardized type of thinking. You go to school, and then you go to college or university. You get a job. That job makes you $60K per year if it's a good job, like you're an engineer or something like that. And then out of that $60K, you're going to pay $25,000 in taxes, and it's just standard. No one questions these things, but you don't have to do that. You can shift from being a debt slave and a wage earner, and thinking that stop trying to get out of that debt cycle and start thinking about assets and leveraging those assets. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, there was an interesting dude that Ryan told me about, a guy who joined one of his courses not too long ago. And this guy didn't have any money, and he was straight out of college, and he had no idea what to do. He didn't even have like a job or a trajectory of what he could do, with his degree. So what he did is he looked up zip codes in the most affluent neighborhoods in London, and that turned out to be Mayfair. And he just went door to door, knocked on the doors, and asked people, "Hey, you're in a really nice house, and this may sound weird, but I'm just curious. Like, what do you do? I want to be successful, and I'm curious if you have 5 to 10 minutes to teach me anything about business, because clearly you're doing something well." He had no pitch. He had nothing to offer. He just asked for advice. And one guy was so impressed that he invited him in, talked to him for an hour or two, and started mentoring him. And now he's fucking killing it. He's in the same sort of industry as his mentor, who got him in there. And that's what I mean by not doing the standardized thing. Like, no one would go door to door and do that, but this guy did, and he's rewarded for it. So let's talk about the old way of asset ownership and purchasing a vacation rental. I talked about this in the initial webinar, so it should be super obvious by now, but I'm going to go over it again really quickly just to remind you guys. Now, you don't need to own real estate to make amazing returns. And the key to this is embracing what ownership really means in the sharing economy. So if you look at all these companies, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, HomeAway, eBay, Etsy, TaskRabbit, none of them own anything. Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, creates no content. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, has no inventory. And Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. So you don't need to own anything. And the genius behind this whole system, it's about embracing what ownership really means. And, Facebook, no content. So let's now talk about the space. Is the space growing? Is Airbnb growing? Are vacation rentals growing? So I found this infographic earlier when I was making this presentation. And this is talking about the global vacation rental market. And this is forecasting 2018 till 2022. And it says the market will be accelerating, growing at a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of nearly 7%. So you can see on that little graphic where it says 57.1 billion, it looks like it should double about 4 years. The year-over-year growth rate for 2018 is estimated at 6%. The market is fairly fragmented with quite a few players who occupy the market share, and 50% of the growth will come from EMEA region. And one of the key drivers for this market will be growing tourism industry, increasing popularity of short-term rental properties. So let's talk. That's global, and you guys are all over the place in this course. I know there's guys from London, there's guys from India, there's guys from the U.S. So it's really cool to have so many different countries represented. And Airbnb is a growing fucking business. If Airbnb exists in your city, then you can make money off it. It's basically how it works. Now, here's an interesting slide. 5 emerging markets saw triple-digit growth last year. China, Chile, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and then it has a little bit more about in Thailand. Hosts in Thailand earn 4 billion baht. That could be a misleading statistic. Who knows what the fuck the baht is worth? It's probably not worth that much, but I don't know. Well, maybe it is. I was in Thailand about a year and a half ago, but I don't remember. So who takes all that money? Where's the money going in this growing market? Well, Airbnb, of people, if you're in if someone is renting your place, right, or if someone's renting a unit, where does that money go, right? Does Airbnb keep it? Well, Airbnb takes 15%, and only 3 of that comes from the host. The 12% that Airbnb takes as their cut comes from the guest. So as a host, you get to keep almost all of your profits or all of your revenue, which is pretty cool. And I was able to build my real estate empire in under 2 years without buying a single place. And some of you in the course may already own some real estate and you're interested in buying more. That's great too. But remember, this course is mostly about renting. So that way you can preserve your capital and you can grow much faster than if you buy places. But hey, if you want to buy places, that works well too. You've got a huge bankroll and that's just how you want to do it. Now, next mindset. Let's talk about flexibility. So most of us think that we're flexible, but really when push comes to shove, I don't think we are. Now, are you willing to pack up your shit and leave your apartment in a couple hours if a booking comes in on Airbnb? Are you willing to let someone sleep in your bed, cook in your kitchen, maybe have sex on your couch? Have you ever asked yourself, like, why do people rent out their homes when they travel? And the reason why most people don't is because of these reasons. It's like, oh, I don't want someone sleeping in my bed, or I don't want someone doing what else in my bed or using my place. And it's kind of embedded in our culture. And if you look at the culture of North America and Europe, where most of you guys are from, willing to share from others and willing to share own assets. We live in this culture that tells us to buy more, to feel good, to feed that matrix. And, you're as successful as the things that you have. If you have a nice watch and a nice car, people will think you're cool. Girls will hook up with you. Other guys will envy you, blah, blah, blah. And that same sentiment isn't really shared as much around the world in other places. And I think that has to do with the maybe differences in wealth. But that's just good news for people that live in those other markets, or for people who want to explore those other markets and possibly do business there. There's always an opportunity in emerging markets. So, I don't really value the shit that I own in life all that much. In fact, I don't value it so much. I try to rent it all out if I can. And I rent out my car on Turo. I rent out my places on Airbnb. If I could rent out some of my clothes when I'm not home, I'd probably do that too. I'm sure there's a website for that I don't know about, or one that's coming around very soon. Or maybe it's Etsy or something similar to that. But, I value experiences, especially at this stage in my life. And if I can have an experience that I'm going to remember forever, that's way more valuable than having a fancy piece of art on my wall. Maybe when I'm older, I'll want to sit around in my mansion and stare at my art, but that's not super appealing right now. So it's very important to realize that if we're not careful, we can easily become slaves to our own possessions. And the more that they have, the more those possessions have a hold on us, the more inflexible we become. And it makes everything more difficult when you're running this sort of business or trying to get into this business. So just for a quick example to drive this home, when I first started on this journey, I packed up all my shit in my apartment in LA and I moved out. I put it in storage. At first, I moved to New York to crash with my sister for about a month and a half before I was going to take this big Europe trip. And that was the trip that I learned about Airbnb and first used it as a guest. And then I came back and started doing this business in New York. And I didn't get back to LA for almost a year after that. But all of my shit that I didn't want to get rid of was sitting in a storage unit. And I had a decent amount of shit. And that storage was costing me almost $500 per month. And you add that up over a year, that's $6,000 that I was paying in storage. And when I got back and went through all that shit, like it wasn't even worth 6,000. There was a nice couch that I gave away to my little sister's boyfriend, and the rest of the stuff I tried to give away. I donated some of it and got a nice tax write-off for a little bit of it, and I just trashed everything else because I'm like, fuck, why the hell am I holding on to this shit? It's it's one extra thing to worry about. Now some of the stuff, like the smaller things that had big time personal value, I took to my parents' house, or you can get a real tiny storage unit for small things, kind of like a safety deposit box for a lot cheaper than $500 a month. But keeping a bunch of shit in storage and paying storage rates, like these storage companies are getting rich off idiots like me. So after getting rid of those things, I felt amazing. It was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulder, and keeping that $500 a month felt a lot better. So that is the mindset shift: is flexibility, not letting the things that you own you, and allowing yourself to have a more free mentality. And the last mindset shift, remember, these are to get you to that 10K a month of passive income. So bear with me. I know you guys want to get to the meat of the course, but these mindsets are more important than that. So the last thing is, if you want to be successful in this course, you're going to have to be an action taker, and you're not going to be successful if you're doing what the cat in the hat is doing here by trying to juggle a bunch of different things or a bunch of different business opportunities. It's just not going to work if you're trying to do too many things at once. If you have your main job and you're doing that, you do this on the side, that's perfect. If you can focus even more on this, that's even better if you have the time to do it. But trying to do this while you're trying to learn Forex trading or crypto algorithmic trading and real estate flipping, good luck. If you're not like Stephen Hawking and a fucking math wizard, forget it. And if you were, you'd already be rich and you wouldn't be listening to this right now. So you're just not going to be able to juggle a bunch of shit. And this business is simple, but it's not easy. This takes focused, dedicated work. And if you commit to this process, you're going to succeed. I'm going to show you the exact steps to do it. And what that looks like is doing the assignments I give you along the way, not getting distracted with other things, going out and doing the things that week. So when we get into the new stuff in the following week, you won't be trying to play catch up. And I want you to think of the concept of good enough versus perfection. You don't have to be perfect with this stuff. I certainly wasn't. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to be going over in today's module, I didn't even do because I didn't know to do back in the day. And I was able to build a super successful business without it. I went back and did most of it and cleaned up the mess I created. But I'm going to give you guys what you need to start so you don't have that mess. But you don't need to do any of this shit. You really don't. And I'm going to show you the stuff that you need to do and the stuff that you don't. But the faster you implement, the faster you're going to make money. And things will get more advanced going forward. So let's get this easy stuff done right now. So some of you might have a nice pool of capital to get started in the business, which is great. But some of you might not have much money to start with at all. And this next bit is for someone who wants to do this as dirt cheap as possible due to limited funds. And here's the must-haves to start this business. You need to have a landlord pitch so you can go out and get properties. You need to have a business email address. You need to have a basic website. You need to have an organizational system like a Trello or a Wrike, something to keep all of your documents organized and all of the stuff for your listings. You're going to need a business bank account. You're going to need a debit card and a check to write rent payments. And you're going to need a business address or P.O. box. Now, here's a good thing. None of this shit actually costs any money for the most part, or very nominal. Landlord pitch, that's obviously free. Business email address, you can get one of those on Gmail for free. A basic website, If you don't host it, or if you don't pay for hosting and you just have it like at WordPress.com, that's free, and that could actually work. An organizational system, Trello or Wrike, those systems are free. Business bank account, you can easily open a business bank account for free. You can even open some online business bank accounts, I believe. We'll get into that. When you get a business bank account, debit cards and starter checks are free. And for a business address or a PO box, that's as cheap as like, I don't know, $10 a month, $20 a month. Or you can use potentially a friend's. If you really want to save money and go completely free, you could use like a friend's address or something for your business. You just want to avoid using your own for reasons that I'll describe later. So let's talk about money saving hacks from an extreme cheapskate like me. So this is if you have no money at all. If you have no money at all, the one thing you can do is you can find a partner, and this partner just has to have a little bit of money, right? There's always an opportunity. If you have an idea and it's a good idea, like this idea is, you can enroll someone in your idea and could use their money. So that's if you have no money at all, you can find a partner. And if all else fails, you can start with a room in your own place. So if you don't have a room in your own place, you can't even rent out like a spare bedroom, or you can't even rent out your room and go stay on the couch. I know people who've rented their room and stayed on their own couch for money. And this is to build up money to then use the rest of the system. So you're not doing that forever, don't worry. But if you don't have a room, find someone who has an empty room and start with them. I'm sure you know a friend who has an empty room that you could potentially convince to let you Airbnb it, and you guys split the profits. The next one is an entity. So you don't have to set up an entity or an LLC, S corp, or C corp, or a business. You don't have to do this, but if you do it in the beginning, it'll make things a little bit more clean, but you don't have to. Here's some other things you're going to need. Insurance. Most people just use the Airbnb guarantee. And if you're getting a little bit lost, don't worry. I'm going to go through all this stuff later. You can add insurance at a later date. And you can really get creative. Here's another idea. If you have absolutely no money, I know a guy who went around and he looked for places that were listed for sale, and they were staged, they were furnished, and they were basically being shown, once a week for an open house, like every Saturday or Sunday. And he approached the owners of those places, and he partnered with them to allow him to Airbnb those places when they weren't being shown. So he'd block the calendar on like a Saturday and a Sunday, and the rest of the week he'd Airbnb the places, and he'd just split the profits with the owner. It's a win-win for everyone. Because seriously, there's so many places like that just sit empty, and those places are furnished. They're ready to go. They're ready to accept guests, and they're just fucking sitting there. So basically, the first hack is, look for ways that you can find a partner with people or find a room to rent out, and then use those profits. Don't put those profits in your pocket, but don't wait on those, or put those in your account and use those to fund the business later on. So that's hack number one. Hack number two is, how do you eliminate the cost of rent and deposits altogether? So let's say you have no money for rent or a security deposit. So you can start with your friends and family. Start with someone who's got a second home that's maybe just sitting there. Maybe your aunt has a room they aren't doing anything with. You could rent out that room, list it on Airbnb, split it with her. The key to this is that there's no long-term commitments, because these people, your friends and family, they might not want you to do this for a long time, but say, listen, we can do this for 30 days. We can do it for 60 days. 60 days is ideal, because that way, if you block, if you have bookings a couple months out, you can accept those on the Airbnb calendar. And if they don't like it, if something doesn't go well, you can stop very quickly. The next hack you can use if you don't want to deal with rent and deposit is you can partner directly with the owner. This is kind of similar to what I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago about the guy who found places that were listed for sale and partnered with that owner. But you just approach an owner as you would, that I'm going to teach you guys in this course, that has a place for lease, but you don't even mention the word lease. You say, what I do is I partner with property owners and I help them make money with Airbnb. and I want to do that with you. And you can even offer slightly above market rent. If the place is $1,000 a month, then maybe offer 1,200, and you say he can keep the rest, or you can offer them a percentage of what you make. So let's say you approach the owner and you say, hey, I'll give you $1,000 a month that you're asking for, and 25% of whatever I make on Airbnb is also yours. Or you can do a split, and that's not as good because you're giving up half of everything. But if I can do this instead of nothing, I'm definitely going to do that because you can collect half. So, for example, if the place is $1,000 a month, you just go to the owner and you say, listen, I'm going to rent this out, and it's going to make way more than $1,000 a month. Even the split is going to be way more than $1,000 a month, and we can split that. And if you don't like it, you just give me 30 days or 60-day notice, and I'll be out. There's no mention of deposits. If they ask for deposits, you can just say, I don't do that. And this is no cost out of pocket. These are deals you can make without any money, without setting up any business. It's just having the balls to approach an owner and offer this. And let's say the owner even wants like first month's rent. That's not that bad because you're going to get that money back almost immediately from the bookings that are going to come in right away. And I don't recommend doing this all the time because you're not going to make nearly as much profit as if you have your own listings and your own leases. But this is a great way to get started if you have very limited funds, and you never know if they're going to say yes until you ask. And then the other hack is how to spend zero on furnishing a place. And what I want everyone to do, especially in this course, is always, always, always look for furnished properties. You'd be surprised how often owners will just, they'll furnish a place for you and they'll charge you a little bit of extra rent. And it's worth it to pay the extra rent than it is to spend the time and pay the money on furnishing the place. It's a good deal for them. It's a good deal for you. And then when you're done with the place, you don't have to worry about storing your stuff and paying those storage fees or moving it into a new place. Furniture can be a huge headache. So look for furnished units. If they're not furnished, ask the owner to furnish them. If it's just a grand slam deal and the owner doesn't want to furnish them, then sure, I'm going to teach you guys some very cheap ways to furnish a place for pennies in that module. But that's the third hack. So just to briefly go over that, if you have no money for rent and security deposit, you can partner with landlords. You can use friends' places, friends or family. I know one of the guys in this course, Kumar, he just said his aunt or maybe his grandma has a place that she isn't using, and he just got permission to Airbnb that place. So that's pretty fucking awesome. That's just free money, right? So that's the easiest. Start with friends, family members, anyone who's got a spare bedroom. You're approaching them with like, hey, I can make you money. I'm going to do everything. You just sit there and collect on this place or this room that's not doing anything. You know how many places there are that just sit empty all the time? It's crazy. So you can literally do this with no money. And then if you want to save money, like I said in the beginning, there's a bunch of things that I'm about to go through: setting up an entity, insurance, websites, everything that goes into setting up this business correctly. You can punt that stuff for later. And when you have money coming in from your listings, then you could circle back and you could then do it. So let's get into some of that stuff. And don't worry, if you guys have questions, please save those for the end. And I don't see anyone typing any questions in the chat right now. But if they come up, feel free to put them in the chat now, and then I'll go back and answer them later, or just save them, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So next, here is the overall plan of this module, kind of the nuts and bolts of setting up this business. Here's the things that ideally you'll need. You need a website, you need a name, you need a business email, you need a location, an address of where the business will be formed. You need business cards and a landlord pitch or landlord letter. You need an entity formation if you want to go that route, an LLC, a C Corp, or an S Corp. You need a business banking, bill pay, and basically setting up payments to automatically come from your business banking. You need a system to stay organized with all your paperwork and accounting. And we talked to, yeah. So let's get into these one by one. Choosing a name. So the first name that me and my buddies chose when we founded our vacation rental business was SendStay. And this actually turned into a pretty huge business that I helped found. And you can choose anything stupid, a name. You could choose Main Street Apartments LLC, right? The name isn't that big of a deal. You can just choose anything. You could, SendStay was just a dumb one. It could be, Fancy Stay or Love Your Stay. It really doesn't matter. But, and keep in mind, you can do this as an individual or a company. But the reason why I recommend doing this as a company is because of the way you're going to be perceived. You're going to be perceived as a professional versus an amateur when you approach landlords. And you'll have way more success if you call yourself a company and you have a business name, you have a website, you have cards, and they're just going to realize that they're dealing with a professional. Also, when you're dealing with management, other professionals, handymen, cleaning people, if you approach it as a business, they'll be more likely to take you seriously. And realtors, everyone wants to deal with a professional. So you can do this as a as an individual. It's very easy. I did it. That's the way I started out. But approaching it as a business is a little bit better. Choosing a name. So one way that you can tell if your name is available is you can obviously go on GoDaddy, see if the domain is available, but even easier, just to check if the email is available. Like, for example, if it's sendstay@gmail.com, right, then you'll know if that can be, if that name works. You can just go on Gmail. It's free. You can check if the domain is available on GoDaddy, as I mentioned. Make sure it's available in your state and your country, and if so, it's probably a good name. So you want to keep everything separate. You want to keep your work emails and your banking separate. You really want to stay organized because it can become really easy to get disorganized in this business. And just to make sure you can always run this business from your phone or your laptop, you can connect whatever email you want to Gmail or to whatever email client you have, and then that'll go directly to your phone. And we'll talk about setting up the website in a second here. But next is your business address. So setting up a business address is important because property owners will search for you. And if you have a business address, it just makes you look more legit. You can do this for very cheap at a local post office, get a P.O. box. Also, if you're going to set up an entity, a corporation, a business address is required for entity formation. So, you can get one of these boxes for like $100 for 6 months. They're not expensive. Next is your website. Do you need one? Well, down the road, you'll probably want one. In the beginning, it won't matter as much, but it's super easy to set one of these up on Wix.com. If you're a little bit better on website stuff, you can use WordPress. It's basically like your online business card. And you're not going to use it to accept bookings or to market like that. Airbnb is going to be the way you're going to do all that. I mean, if you grow so big that eventually your vacation rental company is a recognized entity and people do book directly with you, or you want to do some Google advertising way down the road, that's fine, and you can book people like that. But I'm not getting into any of that stuff in this course. This is just setting up a website that makes you look more legit. So when you approach landlords, your website name is on your business card. They can look you up, and it's got information about what you do on there, and just makes everything look a lot more professional. So that's websites. Very easy to set that up. Any idiot can do this. Just drag and drop. And if anyone needs help on this in the Facebook group, that's something very easy we can help you with and review the websites you make. We can review your business cards. Business cards you can get for super cheap at somewhere like Vistaprint. You can get like a whole box of business cards for like $7 or $9 or whatever, less than $15. Just something simple. You need your business email, your name, your business address. You're going to put those on the card, and you can hand those out to landlords or other people that might have properties. And if let's just say you get one property from this, it's worth it, right? Just one place will make all of those stupid business cards worth it. And you never know. Um, the landlord might take your business card and your landlord letter, put it on his desk, and rent his place to someone else. But then a year later, when it becomes open, he'll remember that and he'll see your card and be like, "Oh, well, maybe I should try this vacation rental guy." My last tenant was annoying and didn't pay rent on time, and this guy promises he will and seems like a professional. Let's try him. So you never know. That stuff can really come in handy. Now, next is your landlord pitch. So there's a few ways you can do the landlord pitch. You can deliver it. You can create a letter to hand out. And it's basically like a sales letter for an owner. It builds a lot of credibility. You can put it in a folder with your business card or staple it together. You can have those ready to go in your car, or if you're walking areas to find good places. That's something that I've done in the past. Is I've gone to neighborhoods where I've had success before, or I pinpointed neighborhoods that are good, and I'll just walk the neighborhood and look for lease signs, because a lot of the stuff won't be listed on Craigslist or other places to look for properties like RadPad. So here's basically your pitch to a landlord. This is why they would want to choose you over an average renter. So an average renter does not conduct daily, weekly, or professional cleaning. A lot of the time, the place is just disgustingly dirty when they move out. You are going to do that. You're going to have the place cleaned on every turnover. Average renter might smoke in the house, have friends who smoke, or have pets that tear things up. You're not going to allow smoking or pets, so you won't have those problems. An average renter uses the appliances quite a bit. You're barely ever going to use the appliances, because most people who come to vacation rentals don't really do much cooking. They don't really do much laundry. They're using way less water than the average renter, and they're going to be creating less wear and tear, because people typically, they come to a place, they're out and about doing touristy things or visiting whoever they're visiting, or on business trips. They don't spend a ton of time in the Airbnb. So there's way less wear and tear. And everyone says, "Oh, well, they're going to come and they're going to party." Well, you can decide to not rent to people like that, and that happens significantly less than you might think. And one little party is not going to be as much wear and tear as some disgusting tenant who never cleans the place and just lives in filth and yada yada yada. Now, here's a big one: minor maintenance. That's going to be covered by you, the tenant, whereas the average renter makes the landlord deal with minor maintenance, like clogged toilets. Let's say the power goes out and they're too stupid to know how to flip the circuit breakers. That's something a landlord is going to get a call for. As the vacation renter, as the person who's managing these things, you're going to have handymen to deal with these maintenance issues, and it's going to be very simple and easy. You're never going to have to bug the landlord about it. Now, another thing you can do is you can offer insurance. There's very cheap, specific vacation rental insurance policies that you can take out, and it's pretty enticing to a landlord if you also offer them full insurance on the place. I'm not talking about rental insurance. I'll get into the insurance a little bit later, but they're totally covered for anything, any damage, any liability, anyone who comes through your Airbnb. That's just an added layer of protection for them. If you're not going to offer that, then take it off this list. And you're obviously going to pay rent on time, automatic monthly rental payments through bill pay. They're going to get everything on time. They're going to get all the utilities on time, everything that you have to pay to them. And they know they're going to be dealing with a professional. So this can be a pretty enticing list for a landlord who's considering maybe allowing you to do this in their property. Most people think, why would a landlord ever, do this? It's much better to have a tenant. But here's some reasons right there, and these are pretty compelling, especially if a landlord has recently dealt with a really annoying tenant, like a bunch of college kids, or just someone who was a huge pain in the ass, or they didn't pay rent on time. Like, if you talk to landlords, their horror stories about tenants are pretty brutal. So next, let's get into entity formation. And you can do this with a company called LegalZoom very easily if you want to go that route. And I want to just say for the record, this isn't legal advice. I am not qualified to give you legal advice. I'm not an attorney or an accountant. So you definitely want to consult an attorney, an accountant, or both because depending on where you live, the laws and variables could be much different. And I can't really tell you which entity is best. You can decide between an LLC, those are what I've always chosen, a C Corp or an S Corp. The reason for an S Corp is that the taxes flow through directly to the owners. The C Corp is a little bit different. You can end up getting double taxed if you go with the C Corp route. Depending on where you are, like I said, don't trust anything I say on this stuff. You want to consult with a professional. But keep in mind, doing this will take a couple weeks to set up. So if you do want to set up an entity, I'd recommend you starting right away. And by the time you get your first property, you'll have this ready to go. And LegalZoom.com, like I mentioned right here, not sure if you can do this internationally or what the laws are internationally. But if you do go the LegalZoom route in the US, you got to choose your state. It doesn't have to be the state you live in. I think if you choose like a Delaware or Nevada company, you'll have less state income tax. But if you do go the LegalZoom setup, here's what you do. Here's just some prompts they're going to ask you. So first you choose your state, and then you choose a name and 2 alternatives. So make sure you have some name alternatives. They're going to ask you if you want help with your tax ID, and you need your tax ID to open your business bank account. So yes, ask them for help with this. They'll help you set that up. The official address is the business address you choose. That could be that P.O. box. And then they're going to ask you if you want to use them as a registered agent. And what that means is they're going to collect any notifications from the IRS, and they'll notify you and remind you about things you need to do, like filing an S election. And I would definitely recommend using them as a registered agent. They tend to do a very good job, and otherwise that stuff can slip through the cracks. Then it's going to ask you for the number of shares, because you're creating an entity here. So it doesn't matter. You can just create, you say 1,000, and if it's just your business, you're going to get all those shares. If it's you and a partner and you're 50-50 and you do 1,000 shares, you each get 500. And then it's going to ask you for the officers. If it's just you, then you're going to be listed as all the officers. You're going to be fulfilling all those roles. Then it's going to ask for your personal info. And then there'll be a questionnaire where you just answer those questions. For business category, if they don't have the category for your business, you might have to select other. And then they're going to try to upsell you on additional stuff that they want to sell you. You don't need that stuff. It's up to you. But everything you say yes to is going to be an additional fee, and that can get pretty expensive if you say yes to all their upsells, which you don't need. So I wouldn't do that. And like I said, you're going to get your EIN number, and you need that to open a bank account. And to do your S Corp election, make sure you're not taxed twice by doing that way. They're going to be your registered agent. They're going to provide customer support. And I think this whole thing is less than $200. And they even have installment plans. So if you want to set up your entity, it's fairly easy, fairly cheap. And you need to do this before you set up your business banking. So that brings us to business banking. Now, for business banking, you're going to need your EIN, you're going to need an ID, first deposit of about $100, your articles of incorporation, which you'll get after LegalZoom gets back to you and you set that up. And then you're going to request debit cards. You're going to get one for yourself and maybe one if you have an assistant, or one that potentially you could give to an assistant later down the line or to a trusted cleaner. You can request a checkbook, and you'll need checks for paying your security deposits. And it's super important, don't commingle your funds. IRS does not like when you commingle your funds. That's why it's really important to open a separate bank account for this stuff. Do not start doing this through your own bank account. It's just going to be a huge headache. Trust me, I've fucking dealt with it. It's like the worst headache ever. And the nice thing about Airbnb is they offer direct deposit directly into your bank. So when you get a booking and the people come and they check in, a couple days later, you're going to see that money directly into your business bank account. And you set that all up in the payout preferences. And like I said, this setting up all your banking and everything will take a little bit of time. So you want to get on this right away. That's why we're going through this now. Now, if you don't want to go the business route, you don't want to set up an entity, you just want to do this on your own, you still should set up a different bank account. so you're not commingling funds, and just so you have a really clean accounting system. And you can set up for free a high interest checking and savings account at Ally Bank. That's an online bank. They offer, free ATM anywhere in the world. So if you need to pull money out in Moscow, you can pull it out, and they'll even pay your ATM fees. I use Ally Bank for tons of stuff. Anytime I set up, different little businesses that aren't, where I don't need a business bank, I'll use Ally. So if you don't want to go the business route, like I said, that's your option there. Next is organization. There's going to be tons of stuff as you go along. At first, there's not going to be much, but there's going to be a lot of info once you start getting some of these listings up of really important things you need to remember. And you don't want to rely on your own notes to do this or pieces of paper. It's just super inefficient, and you need this stuff on hand all the time. If a guest calls you and they can't get into your place because they don't know the door code, and you're out and you've got to find it on your notes at home, they're going to cancel that reservation. You're going to be out a lot of money. So if you use an example, one of these sites, Trello or Wrike, either one of these, I've typically used Trello. It's just my preference. Wrike is, I don't know, looks good too. It's basically like a filing cabinet for your entire company. And it will also remind you to get things done. You can put due dates on things, remember to upload photos, and these apps work anywhere, right on your phone. They make your business totally mobile. You're gonna have everything with you. And here's some things that you're gonna list in there. You're gonna need like a master file for each property. You're gonna need your utility information, because God forbid, your power goes out or your gas. That can cause huge issues with your guests. You're gonna need to be able to access those account numbers so you can, have someone call, or so you can call and get those services turned back on. You're going to need door codes, inventory of cleaning supplies you can save in there, special notes and instructions for each of your units and cleanings, account numbers for your bank accounts. Basically, you can just save everything in here. Anything you can think of. It's super essential. So for now, sign up for it, play around with it. Put your current property info to get a better feel for it. You can practice by putting whatever place you live at now, just put all that info in there as well. That way you can get a feel for it. So next is paperwork. Now, paperwork is super annoying. When you first start off, you're not going to have much paperwork, but as time goes, the paperwork pile is going to grow too. So a good rule of thumb is just save everything, save receipts, don't get rid of it. You want it for tax purposes. When you make an expenditure, you should write the unit right on the top of the receipt. So if this is for, unit 1 out of your portfolio, if you buy toilet paper and shit for that unit, you write right on top of the receipt, unit 1. If you're buying stuff for 2 units, then you itemize each line and you say which unit it's for. Or if it's a general business expense, like something for your website, or something for some marketing stuff when it comes to like your business cards, right? Then you're going to label it as general. This will keep you very organized. It'll keep you, you'll be able to have an income sheet for each property. And just an easy way to save receipts. You can find special bags for receipts, or just go the old shoebox method, whatever you want to do. And then to make this a little bit easier, you can take pictures of all your receipts and immediately upload them into Expensify. And Expensify is great. It's an app on your phone, and it keeps everything organized for you. It'll even save those photos of your receipts. And it's better to do this as you go, or to take one day out every month to do this, than to wait till the end of the year. Otherwise, it just becomes totally overwhelming. Next up is insurance. So insurance, there's a different type of policies, but first is the host protection insurance that's offered by Airbnb. And people ask, do I need anything beyond this? Well, it's up to you. They're offering this guarantee in the last time I checked, around 20 countries. And that covers you against any liability claim up to $1 million US that occurs in your listing. It protects you against damage, bodily injury from Airbnb, or or yourself even, anyone during a rental time. And this is Airbnb's insurance. So the downside is they're going to decide if they're going to cover your claim or not. And the reason why you'd want to get supplemental insurance in addition to this is to give your owners additional peace of mind. But many people just use this, or what you can do is you can wait till you have a decent amount of income coming in, and then you can purchase this later. It's going to cost you, about 1 day's worth of rent. It's not a whole lot, especially when you have a ton of money coming in. And the main reason, like I said, is a great selling tool for owners. And this will also give you peace of mind when you're renting out your own place that if anything happens, Airbnb will cover you. You can read more about it on their website. It's airbnb.com/host protection insurance. Airbnb.com/host protection insurance. And then the other policies, other insurance. Now there's cheap renters policies, which covers items like stolen stuff, like a computer or a TV, but it doesn't cover anyone living there. So, if you're out and someone steals your TV, you could claim it on your renter's insurance. That's about it. And it doesn't really help much for the owner. Now, an owner's policy will cover against fires, floods, other, crazy acts of nature that come up, but it doesn't cover short-term rental guests or damages that occur during that. So you need short-term rental specific insurance. And you can find those policies, just do a Google search. They may exist in your state or country, depending on where you live. And you can even have liability policies if someone tries to sue your company. They're very cheap. They're easy to get. This insurance is not expensive. That's why I mention it. And it's got that great owner benefit. You can put that right in your landlord pitch. And I'm not an expert. It's just my opinion. It varies country and state. So please consult with an expert. And it's totally your option. You can always just use Airbnb. I went that route for many years and never had any issues. So this is mainly, the main reason for this is it just makes your pitch a little bit more strong. Now, last is local laws. So you want to know the local laws, both between you and your landlord, your tenant rights, and also the local laws when it comes to short-term vacation rentals. This site, Landlordology, is great. It will tell you everything in most states. Sorry, I don't know what you guys in other countries are going to do for this, but maybe something exists. And this will help you be more equipped and informed and know exactly what's allowed when you're ironing out your agreements with landlords and signing leases. So you can do some research, check out this site. And lastly, back to everything that we just covered. We covered website, naming your business, business cards, letters to landlords, your landlord pitch, business email, insurance, paperwork, entity setup, and productivity using Trello and Wrike to make sure you get stuff done. And by paperwork, what I meant there was your receipts and Expensify. So first, I'll go through the homework, and then we'll get to the questions. So what I want you to do is decide right away on this list what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Remember, you don't have to do any of it. You can literally just start by renting out your spare room and make your own account on Airbnb. I definitely recommend you set up a different bank account, though. It's easy and it's free, and you can just go on Ally Bank. If there's one thing you're going to do, set up a new bank account on Ally Bank or another online bank, because it's important to know what you're making from this business and to not commingle funds. If eventually you turn it into a business, don't make that mistake. But choose on this list what you want to do and what you want to punt until later when you have more money coming in. So that's homework number one. And homework number two is I want you guys to immediately get a listing up on Airbnb. It doesn't have to be a listing you're ever going to go live with or you're ever going to use, but it'll get you familiar with the website and how to create a listing. It'll also get you familiar with the process of answering messages, which is going to be very important later on in the course. So you can do a spare bedroom, you could do your own place, you could do a family member's place, And if you're a real overachiever, between now and the next call, you can go out, pitch some landlords, and get your first listing up. That'd be awesome too. Or you can partner with a landlord and get your first listing up. But I really want you guys to get a listing up on Airbnb. It's a great practice. You're going to need to do it eventually, so why not do it now as practice with whatever you can use. And the last one is, since everyone in this pilot program originally came from either the Infinite Man Summit or Infinite Man group, or my group, Inner Confidence and Leverage, I want to kind of compare the next step of next week to approaching women. So there's a bunch of different ways to get dates. You can go out to nightclubs, you can use online dating, you can meet girls through your social circle, you can day game. But I think both myself and Ryan and Sasha agree that day game is the best way, because you can get an answer right away. That's if you don't have a social circle. I'm a huge fan of social circle stuff, but I've spent years building a crazy social circle. So if you don't have anything with day game, you get an answer right away. It's way less expensive and way less time consuming than online dating or going out to bars and clubs. And finding properties isn't a whole lot different than going to day game. You're going to be approaching landlords. If you can approach them in person, face to face, you're going to have a lot more luck than trying to hit them up online or just sending them emails. In the next module, I'm going to teach you this process, which in my opinion is the most difficult part of the business, because guess what? Most landlords, just like women, most are going to say no. Some are going to be polite. Others will be dicks about it. They'll tell you, vacation rentals are illegal, or you need a permit, or you need this, or you need that, or, blah, blah, blah. But, just like some women might rudely ignore you, but, that fear creates the anxiety to go out and approach. And in my opinion and experience, usually about one out of 7 landlords say yes to this. So 6 out of 7 are going to reject you, but 1 out of 7 will say yes. And that's if you're doing everything right. That's if you're armed with the tools I'm going to give you and you're doing everything right. So this is a rejection game. Just like approaching women, there's no way around it. But you approach 7, that's not that bad. 1 second, the door's there. Sorry, guys. My girl was at the door. All right, so that was basically the end of the homework. Is if you can go out and pitch a landlord, great. Or you can practice approaching some women if you want to. But homework 1, from the list I provided, do something on this list, figure out what you're going to do and get started, and then get a listing up. And I want you guys to post it in the Facebook group. So that's the end of this presentation. I'm going to turn my ugly face on, and let's take some questions. I know I just bombed you guys with a ton of information. But Ryan says in the UK you can create a limited company online for about £60. Yeah, a lot of you guys, I know Ryan's doing this in the UK. So anyone we can share in the Facebook group about other ways you can do this stuff. Let me get rid of this slideshow. All right. David asks, how do you make the initial intro to a landlord? What form does your pitch come in? Do you have any pitch decks, PDFs you've used that you could share? Yes, I'm going to share my landlord letter, which is you could literally just hand it to them, or you can email them that. I'm going to post that in the Facebook group, and you guys can download it or tweak it if you like, or do whatever. Hey, baby. And I will post all that. So, and when you do your initial pitch, I would recommend doing it in person as much as you can. That way you'll get very good at it very quickly. And it'll come more natural, and it'll be a little bit easier as time goes on. Apart from looking for let signs, for sale signs, how do you find landlords? We'll get into that in the following module next week. RadPad, Craigslist, There's lots of search engines that allow you to find landlords. Obviously, you can drive and look for things, but there's tons of resources for that, which I'll get into. Let's see, Joseph. So how do we pitch ourselves to landlord, property manager, vacation rental, etc.? Like I said, I'll get into that more next week. I can touch on some of that in the Facebook group. Remember, this week is just setting up your shit. So if that's what everyone wants to know, how do I pitch? How do I pitch? How do I pitch? We're going to get into that. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to post a landlord pitch deck and letter. I mean, just to give you guys some stupid examples of what I did before I had even any of this stuff. The first time I mentioned on the initial webinar what I did is I just didn't tell the landlords, which you don't want to do because you want them on your side. But then what I started to do was I'd approach them and I said, hey, I'm looking for a place to do corporate housing. I'm starting a business. I'm going to have a lot of people that are working for the company and also some people that are coming in as vacation renters coming through this place. Would you be interested in doing a lease like that? And the guy was like, oh, well, like people in your company or Airbnb? I was like, oh, yeah, both. And and that's how I did one of them. And then slowly as time went on, it was just obviously Airbnb. But here's an example of a letter. Let me find it here. So here's an example of a letter. Dear property owner, and let's just say I use my name and my business. Dear property owner, I work with SendStay and I'd like to lease your property. When people visit LA, they want to experience what it's like to be a local, and we give them that experience by providing all the amenities and services of a hotel, but through privately owned properties like yours. And if your property is selected for our program, we'll provide you with the consistent long-term rental income you've come to expect. And here are some questions you may be considering. The first one is, who would be visiting my property? And each of our guests are pre-screened for ID, pet-free, non-smokers. They typically stay for 1 to 6 nights. And after each visit, your property is thoroughly cleaned to the highest standards by our professional cleaning company at no cost to you. And the next question is, would this require extra work for me? And you say, nope. You basically sit back and relax. We're going to handle everything. There's no additional management for you. Also, we're happy to provide you with references if needed. And they're going to ask you, what's the cost or what's the catch? And you say, there's no fee, there's no cost to you at any time. Once we sign a lease and provide you with a security deposit, you can enjoy all the following. And then basically you show them that list that I went through, which had the average renter on one side and your business on the other, that said basically all maintenance covered. For yours is yes, for the average renter is no. Regular professional cleanings, yes, no. Pet-free and smoke-free, yes. You guys remember that thing that I posted? Here, just to make it easy, I'll turn the screen share back on and I'll find that for you guys. This. On the landlord letter, it's going to have this. And to sign, you say, thank you for considering SendStay, your business name. When you're ready to get started, I can be reached anytime on my number or email below, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. So if you can hand that letter to them in person, you can go over that with them. But basically what you're saying is, you're a business, you want to rent their property, and people come to their city all the time. They want to experience the city and not stay in a hotel. And you give them that experience through properties like theirs. And the people who are coming are all ID'd. They don't smoke. They don't have pets. Typically stay for just a few nights. The place is professionally cleaned. This wouldn't be any extra work for you. You can just relax. I'm going to handle all the management. You're not going to hear from me for any sort of maintenance requests or anything. I'm going to pay all my rent on time. I'm not like your traditional tenant who you might have to deal with headaches. There's no cost to you once you sign the lease. There's nothing else for you to do. Here are the reasons why I'm better than the average tenant. What do you think? That's your pitch. So hopefully that's pretty easy and doable. And as time goes on, you guys are going to get better with it. And like I said, not everyone's going to say yes. You don't need to find everyone. You just need to find a couple. Okay. Here's some more questions. Another thing that you can do is you don't even have to approach landlords right off the bat. You can approach real estate agents and they can help you find landlords. They can even pitch landlords for you, but I don't recommend that until you're comfortable doing it yourself, because they will not pitch it nearly as well as you do. I promise you that. The real estate agent I had for many years, even though she knew how to do it and she found us a bunch of places, I could still always do it much better than her. And even someone new could do it better than her. It just wasn't her forte. Joseph says, why do you go with an LLC? It's simple. It's the easiest corporation to set up. You don't have to deal with an S election, and it gives you all the benefits of an S corp. And that's about all I know. But I know that's what we've chosen. LLCs are good, and consult with someone besides me because I don't know. Azara asks, how would you handle the requirements for a permit from the city before you offer an Airbnb? So these individual questions about city permits and stuff like that, I'm not going to be able to answer because I don't know your city. I'm going to need to know what the legislation is. So that's the sort of thing you want to post in the Facebook group. And we can help you with some of those questions. So that's for Zara. David asks, importance of credit score. Does setting up an LLC or other entity mitigate this importance? Good question. Now, if you're running it through a business and it'll take a while for your business to establish credit. So that's probably not going to work unless, no, that won't work. If you have bad credit and you set up a business, your business isn't going to have good credit right off the bat. It's going to have whatever credit you have. So I don't think that really changes anything. But if you do it through an LLC or a company, and you can, I don't know, that could have a potential difference for a landlord. The other thing that you can do if you have bad credit is you could ask a buddy that has good credit to come on the lease with you and basically be your co-signer. You could pay him, a couple $100 a month to do that, or even less. I've signed many leases for people in the past because I have really good credit, and I've just, accepted a small monthly fee to be on the lease, and it was, no risk for me because I know they were Airbnb-ing and they were going to pay rent on time. So that's how you can deal with bad credit, or you can just partner with the landlord and not be on a lease at all. Jason asks, if you don't have a space to rent, what would you set up on Airbnb? Well, you would set up a fake listing of your own place just to get comfortable using the site, or you would find a place that you can rent from, or find use the hacks that I told you about earlier to find somewhere that you can rent. So if you don't have so I think what you're asking is, how do I do the Airbnb homework assignment? And you use an old place, or you use the place that you're currently living, and you just set up a profile and you don't go live with it, because then you won't be accepting bookings and you just get comfortable with the site. Joseph says, I heard that hosts have to accept the first reservation on a new listing. How do we handle that with this practice listing? That's not true. I don't know where you heard that. They have to accept the first reservation on new listing. No, that's only if it's set up on Instant Book or something like that. You can reject all listing. You can reject all all bookings, but you don't have to go live with the listing. In fact, if you're not going to be accepting reservations on that listing, I'm going to recommend you don't go live with it, because if you do, it will hurt your acceptance rate and it'll make it harder to become a super host later on. So we're just setting up a listing for practice. We're not going to accept any reservations unless your place is actually reservable. Okay. Jay asks, question about structure. Are we going to have access to recordings of these webinars later? Yes, 100%, of course. David says, thanks for going over all that. No worries. David says, any additional tips are what we've covered specific to Los Angeles? We can cover that in the Facebook group. So that's all the questions so far. Good questions, guys. Anything else? Any clarifications or any additional questions? No? All right. Well, your questions will be better answered in the Facebook group anyways. So with that in mind, I'm just going to pull up the Facebook group link. And I'm going to drop that right here. Where's that thing? Zara says, thanks, Robbie. Looking forward to the next one. Me too. Thank you, guys. Thanks from my end, says Jay. Sounds like rock solid info. Cool, guys. Here's the link to the Facebook group, and I will talk to you guys next week and on there. Peace.